Okay, so starting with the aft stateroom, which is en suite and a shower. Nothing wrong with the shower or the loo. This bedroom though is quite dark. We're not huge fans of this either in terms of its material or its colour, and similarly this, again curtains, and the carpet, which is quite dated. It's just a brown tan. We find this leaves this room quite dark. It is lit up, but without lights on, it's quite a dark room. Headlining is in pretty good shape, so I don't think we need to bother with headlining. Cupboards fine, woodwork in really good nick. Storage cupboard, it's good. There is a LCD TV which we really don't use and don't intend to start using. It's not our intention to use it for watching TV in bed, so I don't know whether we replace that with something more usable or just leave it as is. Again, carpet up through the dinette. Okay, so up out of the aft bedroom, there are two cupboards either side. One has a small fridge, very small fridge, and the other one is the storage cupboard, which really we just use at the minute for quick access to life jackets. Below that is engine access. This is the area that we need work done the most. The upholstery has really started to deteriorate, particularly those sort of heavy touch points. The seating area itself is quite uncomfortable, in keeping with most boats we find. The uprights, the backrests are very vertical, which means when you're sitting watching TV or sitting relaxing in the evenings, you're sitting bolt upright, which isn't at all comfortable. Our view would be to try to use this space possibly with the TV located here, either on a rise up or fitted there in some way that you can still get access to the instrumentation from behind. Possibly squaring off the space behind the backrests rather than having the curve. Certainly having at least one or two of those sections being recliner, so that you can sit, probably sort of sit side by side, feet up on the table or feet up on recliners facing towards the TV. Whereas if you're not using the TV, or if you have a greater group, you're more likely just to sit back. Ideally as well, we'd like to use that area with an infill, so maybe repurposing the table so that it can rise up and down, or at least be made in some way that it would infill that area and make it an option for sleeping. An extra guest or two. Again, carpet fairly poor, not overly worn, but just not particularly modern. Access to the engines is below this area and the area sort of where the table is, so those seats will always have to be modular because we need to remove those seats to get into the starboard engine. Again, curtains wouldn't certainly be our choice. The front windows have no cover at all, so ideally drop down blinds in some way there. This space is pretty good. We have a pull out drinks cabinet, which is quite nice, if but multi-purpose. Again, TV really is too small to be of any use. and we use a TV just sitting on top. This does end up being quite cluttered, so ideally we would kind of think of maybe putting a number of sockets in there or in the back, so as we could do away with a lot of this cabling, which isn't particularly attractive, and those could be easily conduited across the back. Headlining is fine. Wouldn't really see any need to touch the headlining. Probably just needs a wee bit of a tighten up in places. Kitchen, yeah, quite functional, quite good storage in it. We don't have a huge issue there. It's all storage here is really good. No issues there. The dining room space is quite good. Those chairs are comfortable when you're sitting at the dining table, but again, then you're not reclining like you would be in the living area. Good storage space underneath those seats. If I had to have a complaint, it's the fact that the storage goes right to the hull. So it means that if you're putting stuff in here, for example, it's the full length of your arm to try and remove stuff out of that storage space. But yeah, again, curtains are fairly poor. Headlining isn't bad. Don't really have much of an issue. Slightly sagged there, but it's not a huge issue. Could possibly get tightened. The forward cabin is just at this stage a bit of a dumping ground, so ignore the clutter. But again, not huge fans of this. It's quite dark. I don't think it comes out in the video as dark as it is. Again, carpet needs changed. Bed surround, as with the aft bed. The backboard, which runs across curtains, certainly need a bit more life about them. Yeah, it's a usable space, but it just is dark and slightly grey. And the cockpit flooring was upgraded. Well, let's call it upgraded. Someone has fitted a teak deck style surface to it. It runs only as far as the first step down. It is lifting in many places, and really isn't a particularly good job. So we would look to get that replaced at the same time with something a little bit more, something a little bit tidier. This whole box does move. It's effectively freestanding, albeit it's quite a weight, but it can be floored the whole way from front to back with that box removed and then the box put back in again. Might be an option to consider putting a freezer into that box. On a pull-out freezer. We're still sort of weighing up the benefits of, or the necessity for a freezer. There really isn't a freezer on the boat, and it's one of our like to haves as opposed to must haves just now. These seats are certainly functional. They don't get a lot of abuse. They are starting to show a little bit of wear. Some of the stitching starting to become very brittle, so we would be looking at updating that, certainly smartening the area up, with the possibility of fitting a dining table on posts. That being said, this little fold away is again more than usable. It just maybe needs a little tidy up, so we quite like that. Again, these seats not overly used. The boat hasn't actually been used very much, but they are showing their age, and just things are starting to fail around some of the stitches. So I would look at upgrading these seats into something a little bit fresher. So something a bit more colour, a bit more modernity.